Hey guys, RC here. Had to take a little break, had to rest my pipes a little bit. Not that it helps my voice sound any better. Still sound like crap, I'm sure. But hey, I needed to go eat, get something to drink, and I had a couple of hours of nonstop talking there, so needed to chill out just a little bit. All right, so we finished off Conference USA. We were moving on, and we were moving to the Big 12. We've kind of already gone through the coaches there. So let's see. First up, North Texas. Now, Danny complained that we spent too much time on him a couple of weeks ago, so maybe we just skip his team. Nah, he deserves a little bit better than that. Looking for fourth in the Big 12, a top 15 finish in the nation. That's not chump change for UNT at a 70 prestige. Let's see, they have a 174 and 147 record. So honestly, as well as Danny has done, they're not that far over a 500 team, which goes back to their past history. Four conference championships, one of those in the Big 12 last year. 16 postseason appearances, but only one playoff appearance. Arkansas State, Rice, him and JCW have a huge rivalry. I'm not sure if JCW is at Arkansas State now. I know he's at Arkansas. I don't think he took the state job back. Rice, we already looked at them earlier, so they're not a pushover team. Air Force, one of my teams, certainly not a pushover. I mean, we're not in the same ballpark with North Texas, but we actually beat him a couple of years ago, and finishing off with number 4 Oregon. So Danny certainly does not shy away from competition. He's been known in the past. He'll schedule some easier games, but I'll tell you what, Danny spends a lot of time, and I know this from talking to him. Danny spends a lot of time evaluating opponents or potential opponents. Hold on. Danny just texted me actually. um, for those of you that don't know, Danny is a high school basketball coach. He just found out today, so congratulations to Danny. He is going to be an assistant coach, a volunteer assistant, running his first summer college basketball camp at Gonzaga, which is his all-time favorite school, and and he will start networking, and his goal is to break into college coaching. I like Danny a lot. I wish him nothing but the best. And you know what? I hope all that happens, man. May all your dreams come true. And just remember, I have stood by you through hell or high water. And when you start making the tournament, just remember to throw a few bones to your old friend with some tournament tickets, because I can't afford them otherwise. So, but no, seriously, good luck. I hope that comes to fruition at some point. But I hope the camp goes well this year. I hope you get to meet Mark Few. I hope you start networking and make some contacts in the college industry. And hey, maybe you can get in at a volunteer assistant or something for a year or two, and still make ends meet, and get your foot in the door for to become a college coach. That would be incredible. I wish you nothing but the best there. But anyway, back to business. So I was telling you, Danny spends a lot of time evaluating potential opponents, and he wants to make sure he at least matches up with them. May not mean he's going to win, but he at least will feel comfortable that he can exploit something on their defense, or he can do something defensively to stop the other team, whatever it may be. And his win-loss record kind of shows that he overachieves a lot because of the time that he puts in. They run a run and gun. Well, and that's the 7 o'clock time. So Darren will be running the sim soon. So some of these will go up post sim, and I may have to carry over into tomorrow. I just don't know. I'm going to keep going as best I can. Wife and kids are actually going to church tonight, and it's going to last Easter Vigil Mass. I think they said they go from 8 to 11. So I'll probably waste some time on here recording some videos tonight for another 3 hours. But anyway, a run and gun offense, tight end Reagan Moore, uh, 34 defense, strong safety Michael Reedy. Take a look at his depth chart. Again, he just crossed over that 70 threshold this year. He has told me that I don't know who he's after, but I know he said he started seeing some 5-star interest. And so I do expect to see him becoming a force on some of those upper players and really tying up a lot of these 4-star players rather than settling for 3 stars like he has in the past. And man, we've seen what he can do with low end talent. It's going to be scary to see what he starts doing with some higher end talent. Paraloo, I remember him recruiting this kid a couple of years ago. It must have been a JUCO guy. Um, Last year, didn't start any games, and no telling who Danny's going to go with. Might be Renner, might be might be one of the 3-star guys. He looks for certain things. Uh, so who knows? Um, Surprised he didn't cut Taylor. He may have missed that sim. I know real life has gotten busy, but and plus he just had the kid a few weeks ago. So congrats for that. I think we've already mentioned that, but if not, he did just have a baby. His girlfriend did, and they get married next month. So kudos. He's got a lot going on. Full plate, man. Full plate. Oh, by the way, Danny, how is that basketball camp going to interact with the wedding plans? Just curious, because I'm sure she won't want to change those, even for a basketball camp. Spear, now he's got a 9 prestige blue chipper here, Doc Williams. And again, this is number 421. Shouldn't have been a blue chipper, must have developed. So we'll see how he develops. A lot of guys with 7 and 8 potential down the roster here. Pretty solid across the line, 8s and 7 potential. Needs a little bit of growing time. But here's what here's the weakness for Danny's team over the years has been his depth. He's always basically had to play his starters all game to be competitive. But now he's got second tier guys that are just as good as his starters, and that's going to do nothing but help him. Um, I think he tends to focus a little more on the offense, and you can see that on the defense. Solid starters, but not in, only worthies in that 8 range across the top. We're still seeing Conference USA level players at the other positions. O'Brien's going to be really good. Jennings 2 deep at the middle linebacker, 3 deep on the strong side. Butts is another good one. Now he's a sophomore, started 15 games last year. O'Brien didn't start last year, so he may not even be the starter. He may put Bud in there anyway, but looks like O'Brien had a big jump in training this year. Couple of solid corners, not spectacular, but solid, and really good safeties. He's made a career of getting safety transfers. I don't know if any of these guys were, but this guy probably was. Probably played as a freshman somewhere, transferred after that year, sat out 2023, played last year and this year and next year for Danny. So I think Reedy was a transfer and solid nickelback. So, he doesn't have the talent of, say, a Texas or a Texas Tech, but certainly he has the guns to go in and challenge with just about anybody else. Now, I haven't seen OU. Honestly, I haven't looked at their roster in a while. Probably since James left, and my focus went to Myrtle at Texas Tech. But that is what it is. Speaking of Texas Tech, well, let's go ahead and jump to OU. We'll go ahead and look at James's team. They're expected to finish in the top five. They're an 88 prestige. They're expected to finish in third place in the conference. 4 national championships, 9 conference championships, only 30 losses career in the Big 12 in 25 years. That's pretty astounding. Now James was here before, left, and has recently come back, and it's really good to have him back. He was probably my arch rival in the league. Had a lot of good battles with him. Good guy, and I tried to stay in touch with him while he was gone, but I guess he felt I was stalking him or something, and he wasn't interested. So be it. Anyway, let's see. He's got Nevada, Oregon State. I know those are open teams. NC State and Hawaii. So this is another one. I think Darren's at Hawaii now. I think. So hopefully he got one human team in there. If not, just kind of take a look at that, Darren, and just make sure we're getting human teams for everybody. Let's take a look at the depth chart. I think I think he'll tell you that, the roster strength is not what it was when he left, for whatever reason. It's not horrible, but he's going to need a couple of years to really recruit his players and get them in. So that'll be interesting to see as it develops. Certainly just another team for me to have to deal with for sure. Wood, pretty good quarterback. Sophomore, still has a lot of development to do. Did not do badly last year. I mean, 68%, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Solid running backs. I mean, Montez, he's a sophomore. So you've got a good 2 deep there. You've got Woodside at flanker. Roberts needs some time to develop. Still have some developmental guys that'll come up here. Good 2 deep at tight end. Offensive line's a little weak, but not because they lack the talent. More so, if you look, they just need development time. McCluskey's just going to get even better, and Windhelm is going to be a really good center. McManus is kind of underdeveloped. I'm just wondering, that's a guy I would like to redshirt. It just really depends on the guy's attitude about redshirting. And, because McManus probably won't be as good as Wilkerson this year, but you want to certainly make sure he gets enough playing time that he doesn't transfer, because he's going to be your future at that position. And that's, really when you get to this level, that red shirt, I can't tell you the last time I redshirted a player at Michigan or Texas, just because none of them want to. They all want to play as freshmen, and and then you still lose 2 or 3 a year, and there's nothing you can do about it. I think the quarterback situation's going to hurt. We'll probably see Wood develop a little bit during the year, but James is one of those guys, kind of like Danny. Their battles with North Texas and Arkansas State before James left, were huge battles, and neither one of them really had the greatest players. So, he's certainly a guy that knows his way around game planning and the playbook, and can get the most out of some players and milk every ounce of talent they have. But I think he'll tell you he's not ready to really compete. But I think if you look at between him and Danny, I think it's going to be probably 1 or 2 interesting years. You would think Oklahoma would have the edge just because of prestige, but I think Danny may have actually overall better talent right now. And that's just due to a decrease in recruiting for the Sooners. But they're coming back. James will get them back where they need to be. And what Danny needs to hope is that he can keep pace with them here over the next couple of seasons before James gets a couple of recruiting cycles here and starts competing for national titles again. Over on the defensive side, again, these have not been resorted, so I would guess Johnson's going to start. That's just a guess, but maybe you want Wagner up there because of the better potential. But you've got 9s and 8s across the board. These guys just need some time to get some seasoning and some development under their belt. 2 deep, solid 2 deep at linebacker. and then you go even deeper than that behind them with some developmental guys. McBriar, well, McBriar is actually the weak side starter, so one deep at least. You've got one really strong corner. Simpson's going to be pretty good, but he needs to develop. Behind him, we just really have lack of depth. Even with Dorn and Bush, when they develop, it's a little bit of a drop off. Pretty strong safeties, too deep there. So, I think he'll be okay in the secondary. He won't get torched, but, I think there's a couple of holes there. So, again, I see. Yeah, I see them being maybe a year, 2 years away from really being back to dominance, and a lot of that's just going to be with getting some recruits in and getting them trained up. And if you look, he's only got 12 freshmen this year, so he's going to have 17 scholarships this coming recruiting season, and then 11 minus whatever juniors decide to go pro early. So he may end up with a couple there, and same thing the year after. Some of these 18, and then he may do some cuts as well to free up some scholarships. So, look for him to have 17 to 20, and then probably around 15 scholarships the next year to kind of make an impact. All right, if we move on to, let's see, they are not on there. Texas, they don't play Texas Tech or Texas this year. How lucky is that? Let's see. There's A&M right there. We'll get them to eventually. So Texas Tech, Homer's team, they are projected to finish ninth, finish above a few teams, and a win against Texas. Well, good freaking luck with that. Now, Homer and I actually have a good-natured rivalry. I don't actually think of him as a rival. It's more of a friendly thing, and we like to banter at each other. He was another longtime owner, original owner, in fact, that left the league for quite a few years and then came back not too long ago. And it was really good for him to pop back in, and just kind of seeing his posts bring a smile to my face. He's one of the guys I consider a good guy. A lot of recruits this past year. 30 scholars, 30 freshmen on the roster. UTEP, Georgia Tech, New Mexico State, and Bama. So, a couple of teams that are kind of questionable, but he does pop Alabama in there to end the year. So, he certainly stepped up to the plate with at least one human run game. Tight end DeAndre Wimbush for his West Coast offense. A 4.25 defensive end Austin Johnson is who their primary guys are. Taking a look at their depth chart, you see definitely right here, he's got a prestige of 58, so this is pretty close to North Texas if you look at it. So that's what I would compare him to. Definitely see a tail off. Now, Corcoran doesn't look bad, but needs some development time. He's a redshirt freshman. Same at running back. You've got some guys that'll be okay and would certainly be serviceable. Just they need a little more time. Pretty good fullback, nice receiver. Davis will be good in probably into this year, next year with another year of training. Same with Powell. Troutman will be a good secondary option as a 3 or a 4 receiver. Murray, I'd probably never play him. Pretty solid offensive line. I mean, these guys are 7s. Again, just need a little bit of development to pop them up into that green range. And outside of center, he's got really good depth. Green, Stills, Monroe. Even at center, he's got, Williams right now. He's not great. Craig's actually better. But center's probably his weakest spot. And, you'd certainly like to never see a player like Hollis on a Big 12 roster. Cantu, solid corner there. Corcoran, I always do that at the bottom. I'm thinking I'm looking at cornerbacks. Defense, really strong across the front line. Development needed, yeah, but they also have some depth with McCarthy, Hawk. That's 3 deep at the ends. and I would say three or even four deep because Spikes and Nicks, you can, those guys will develop at some point. Two deep at the linebacker spot. Brown, not the greatest, but you've got some eight guys here in Johnson. Atwood's a seven. Secondary would be a concern. Crook is your best guy, but he's probably a freshman. Yep. So he might redshirt this year. Don't know. But he probably needs to be in the mix with Edwards, uh, building him up at some point. Right now, I'd say secondary is a weakness that you could pick on them with the passing game. Allen is a really good strong safety. Knight's not too bad. And oh, actually, that's nickel. But Allen and Knight are good two deep. Samuel's actually better than Knight right now. Needs some depth there and some training up, some development time. But again, you see the talent. You see some decent quality players that are able to play in the Big 12. May not contend for the title, but certainly I think ninth place is reasonable. And if he can sneak an extra win here or there, that could vault him up into the upper half of the discussion. Taking a look at Myrle over at Texas Tech, dude, I really hate you. Not really. Myrle's one of the best guys that I've come across in these leagues. Another guy that I haven't quite convinced to have become friends outside of the game, but that's okay. But golly, look at this: 3 nines and an 8, and two of these guys were from this year. All right, he's a senior. He's a sophomore. He's a sophomore. Oh, oh, I'm looking at defense. Thank God, because I was about to lose. I was like 4 deep, and he doesn't even have the freshman on there. Mooney, Roberts. Yeah, his guys aren't even on there yet. Let's go to the roster. Hold on. Well, wait a minute. Where's the... Oh, he recruited them at Rutgers. That was the even worse part. He got them at frickin' Rutgers. Okay, well, at least it wasn't Texas Tech. I won't have to deal with it with Texas. Um, Still, Mooney's there, Roberts, both of those guys were seniors, so we're pretty much done. He's going to be in the boat that I am with Texas. He's going to have to try to replace these guys. Now, the good news is it looks like Texas is pretty deep for recruiting this year for a change. They've been down for quite a few seasons, but he's going to need to land a quarterback really bad. But he's got Mooney for the money this year. A couple of really good running backs. He is stocked at receiver. I mean, any of those guys could be starters. I mean, Adams and McCown are both 10 potentials, and they're riding the bench, and a 9 potential guy probably can't even find playing time. No starts last year. Um, and he certainly went to a more pass happy offense last year. He's got one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the country, certainly in the Big 12, and pretty much 3 deep at every position. I'm actually jealous of that offensive unit. Taking a look at his defense, 3 deep at the defensive end, 3 deep at in the middle of the interior line. Even Jones isn't bad, and Love's going to be an 8 potential. So, dude, that's just horribly disturbing. I remember when my roster used to look like this, and I don't know what the deal is. Anyway, 2 deep at linebacker playing this year. Chestnut, when he develops, will get better. Bennett's already there. Partridge, Escobedo, Swanson looks like, I don't know if he'll get the start or Escobedo. But then you've got Prince as a 9. He's a true freshman. So, I'm sure he'll find a way to play him so he doesn't transfer away. You're really solid at safety, and my gosh, you've got three strong safeties. As they develop, will be really strong. Probably going to lose a couple of these guys to transfers next year. It just depends on who he wants to play to keep. But you know, that's going to be a defensive unit that's going to be very scary and very hard to move the ball on this year. So kudos to him for putting that together. All right, we'll hit me last. Top five in the country contend for the national title. 309 and 64, two national championships, 11 conference championships, postseason every year. I had a really long run of being in the playoffs every year. That's been broken. I've missed, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now that I haven't made the playoffs. We're going to run the West Coast this year and a 3-3-5. Inside linebacker Roman Comey. I think he's related to John Comey. And running back Christopher Brooking. Now, that's where, my luck ends. I have had the darndest time getting a strong quarterback because, look what I've got. Painter is there. He's a junior. 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions last year. That's not what you want out of a quarterback slinging the rock 400 times. He's not performing like a blue chipper, but he is only an 8 potential guy. And I don't have anybody behind him. Justice is a freshman I got this year. In fact, Danny laughed when I recruited him, and he says, that's a guy that I wouldn't even want at North Texas. And I said, well, I don't particularly want him at Texas either, but nobody else would say yes. Literally over the last, 5 or 6 seasons, I have I've probably lost an average of 15 quarterbacks per season. If that tells you anything. And I just can't get anybody to come. Brooking and Montgomery do give me a good 1-2 punch out of the backfield. I've kind of changed my decision on receivers. I kind of, lessen my interest in them because I've got so many that want to come, that are at least 10 interest. I think you can do a lot, so I've been putting my focus elsewhere. Pretty strong offensive line, I think, but again, even though they're green, they're 6s and 7s. I need those guys to get up to 8s and 9s. A lot of these guys are relatively young, sophomore, one senior, another sophomore, and a junior. So, I do have 2 deep where I can go, and then I do have some 3 deep guys at the guard and tackle position. Center, you only have to have 2, so I usually end up with a walk-on there. I do try to recruit that 3rd spot when I can, but this year I went real heavy after defensive ends because I needed them and just couldn't really land any. Alford is real good. Bryson's pretty good. I like my 2 and 3 deep for backup purposes. My interior line is really strong, especially playing a 3-man front. I'll be 3 deep at that nose tackle position. My outside linebackers, I'm 2 deep. And my 3rd guy's not bad. He needs to grow a little bit. My middle, same thing. I'm really good with my starter. Not so much behind him, but I am 3 deep that I would at least feel comfortable putting him on the field. Riggs is my shutdown corner. Cook's not bad. Robinson will probably be a little bit better. I haven't sorted out my roster yet, so I may switch those guys. I have to actually look at them. And I've got a pair of 8 guys behind them that'll grow into those roles. Like my safety, Spiller is pretty awesome. Profit, he's a freshman. I don't think I could even redshirt him this year, but even though he's a 1-7, he's probably going to be a cut casualty at some point. So again, I think my season's going to completely hinge on what my quarterback does. in a nutshell. I think I've got the horses everywhere else to run with Texas Tech and contend in the South, but it's all going to come down to how well Painter plays, and 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in 11 starts. He can't do that, and I don't have anybody else. So if he gets hurt this year and he's only a 49 durability, I'm going to be in for a long, long season. So that's worrisome. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and put a cut in right here. Let's see, who is up next? Big 12. Moving to the Big 10 next, so we'll take a look at that in the next video. Thanks for checking us out. Talk to you next time. Bye.